Welcome to Season 4 of Everything is Learning. This season, we're celebrating neurodivergent people, their stories, strengths, challenges, and the powerful ways they learn and live. Because honoring every individual's brain and lived experience makes the world a better place for everybody. We're excited you're here. Let's dive in.
Hello, folks. Welcome back. Today, we are incredibly excited to welcome Ayanna Sanaa Davis to the show. Ayanna is widely known online as @phenomenally autistic, and for good reason. She is an award-winning autism advocate, author, and the powerful voice behind the podcast Black Girl Diagnosed. Ayanna's journey is deeply personal and profoundly important. She was misdiagnosed and medicated for bipolar disorder. This experience is unfortunately all too common for Black women and people of color. It wasn't until a Dominican doctor took the time to truly listen and understand her experience that the correct diagnosis was finally made. Ayanna is autistic. Like so many others, she was late diagnosed and faced cultural barriers to acceptance. Her story not only sheds light on the intersection of race, gender, and neurodivergence, but also calls into question the systems that overlook and mislabel so many. We've invited Ayanna on today to talk about a specific and powerful post she made about her experience getting a mammogram as an autistic woman. As neurotypical people, we were both moved and humbled by her words. For many, a mammogram is already an overwhelming and uncomfortable experience. But Ayanna's post helped us realize how invisible and unspoken the added challenges can be for neurodivergent people navigating healthcare systems that weren't designed with them in mind. As we honor Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we believe it's more important than ever to highlight voices like Ayanna's that push us to expand our awareness, deepen our empathy, and include all experiences in conversations about health and wellness. Ayanna, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
We are honored to have you.
Thank you.
We told you offline already, and we talked to you about our experiences with breast cancer and the impact that it had. And I think more and more we are hearing from people that it touches, it's like a 12 degrees to Kevin Bacon kind of thing. Like someone,
It's only like 3 degrees now.
Right, exactly. And the post just stopped me in my tracks. And then I sent it to Marissa and I was like, somebody's talking about autism and healthcare. Somebody's talking about breast cancer and healthcare and autism. And like, we have to get her on the show. So we're so excited for you to be here. And I'm going to start with our first question. Your recent post about getting a mammogram as an autistic woman really opened our eyes. And I told you it opened our husband's eyes too, because we were talking to them about it. What are some of the specific sensory, emotional, or communication challenges you face in medical environments like that one?
Well, the first thing was when I don't have breast cancer, but I did have to have breast surgery. So when I felt that something wasn't right, I went to my doctor and I told her. And sometimes when you're different, she has to hear it from my dad to take it seriously. So when I was like, I asked for the mammogram and she's like, well, you're not really at the age yet where you need a mammogram. I'm like, well, I'm a millennial and we're all coming up on that age. And you can be 25 and ask for a mammogram and it should be okay. So then I didn't get one for another year. And then a different doctor finally scheduled me to get my mammogram. And it was like I didn't expect it. First, you deal with having sensory issues. So everything is like times 10. When you walk into the waiting room, everybody's voices are like driving you nuts. And I didn't bring my noise canceling headphones that day either. So I was already a little bit on edge. And then like the process itself, they didn't really tell me much. Like I didn't know what to expect. And as an autistic person, I like everything planned. I like to know what to expect. I like things explained to me and I need to know exactly what you're going to do. And I need to know why you're touching me. So it was a little bit like, it was very overwhelming, not a little bit overwhelming. The process itself, when I put my boobs up on that machine, I was just looking around like, and the sensory part of it, like when they press it together and the technician was like, are you going to faint? I was like, I don't know. I might. I mean, I am a fainter, but she was like, are you going to faint? But it was just, I didn't know what to expect. and not having it explained to me, and even the doctor telling me, you don't need it yet. All of that was like just some of the challenges that you go through when you're different, when you're Black. And it was very, very overwhelming. And the lights in the office, the machine beeping, and all of that. And people don't understand that you can get physical symptoms from sensory overload. I've been overloaded and I've fainted and I've vomited, and people don't put two and two together that you can have physical symptoms from sensory overload. So when she looked at me and was like, "Are you gonna faint?" I'm like, "I might."
Right. Gosh.
Absolutely. I'm glad that there are speaking individuals that are able to articulate this, because for my non-speaking son, I can only guess what, and he's had his fair share of x-rays and other examinations. And as best as I can, I try to articulate it, but that doesn't mean I'm the one living that experience. So
It's
really
it's
grateful.
definitely it's definitely challenging. Even when I just go to I have autoimmune diseases and I have a seizure disorder. So even when I go to my other appointments, those are also overwhelming. But the most besides having surgery, the most uncomfortable thing that I have experienced has been a mammogram. And I'm like, I know I gotta do this like every year now, but this is not comfortable. And I just think it's just people forget that, and they don't think about your needs, and they don't think about, well, you'll be fine. Somebody else got one and they're fine. My sister actually had breast cancer. So we learned a lot about boobs, but it was just, I just couldn't believe it. I didn't expect it. If it would have been explained to me, if I had brought a support person with me. I mean, my dad was there, but I'm not going to bring him in there and I got my boobs out. But I was able to bring like a support person with me, and they would have told me like exactly what we're gonna do because I got like the sonogram one too. So it was people don't think about those type of things. They feel that their experience is the only experience that others go through, and everybody's experience is the same, but it wasn't. And it was so overwhelming. Even when I came out, because my dad, like, he says I'm pretty tough, but even when I came out, I was like, get me out of here.
Yeah.
It's a lot of exposure and a lot of touching in places
Yeah.
that, that's not normal. And
Yeah, I don't like
I
to be
also
touched at all, so, when she's, like, flapping my boob around in this machine, I'm like, "You have to hurry up or I'm gonna lose it."
I
Yeah.
good for you
S-
for working toward
Advocating.
advocating for yourself. Yeah.
But
It shouldn't come to that though.
there are so many pieces of this that are so layered and nuanced that, so first off, you talked about how sensory. So people who are neurodivergent and people who also aren't diagnosed yet, or maybe will never be diagnosed, have sensory overload. But before even that experience, what you were talking about is the fact that people go into their first mammogram and have no idea what to expect. And on top of it, if you're going in early, like you did, and I think I was 34 when I had my mammogram, and then I have to wait again until I think it's 40 or 42. But it is already a terrifying experience because you're sitting there trying to figure out if you're going to be diagnosed with breast cancer. Um,
Right.
and you have no idea what's going to happen. I mean, our mother, who we had shared, had breast cancer. We had a couple of aunts who did, a couple of cousins as well. But they said was it was painful. They didn't really explain what was going on. There should be, in the medical waiting room, there should be videos so people
Yeah.
understand what's about to happen. Or I guess my one question that I want to ask is, do you disclose before you go to a doctor's appointment that you're autistic if you're going to a new place, or do you not?
Um, my dad makes all my appointments for me, even though I'm
Okay.
considered high functioning. There are still a lot of things that I can't handle to do for myself. So my dad makes all my appointments and he tells them in advance.
Okay.
I don't know if it would make a difference if he didn't tell them, besides my psychiatrist, but I do have a really great primary doctor, and she's very aware of my needs, what she can and can't do. All the nurses know, you know, let her know what you're about to do, let her know when you're about to touch her. So I have a pretty easy experience when I go to see my primary doctor, but a lot of the doctors, they're just like feeling all over you, and they're rough, and they're loud. The nurses are loud. and they don't understand that everybody doesn't have a neurotypical mind. We're living in this world with a mind not wired to live in this world, and you expect us to react the same way as a person born with a neurotypical brain. So that's something that has always bothered me. And, when I started to speak up for myself and advocate for myself, I do always have to remind them that this world wasn't wired for an autistic mind, and that's why we have a harder time.
Mm, that's
And
that's so helpful to hear you say that.
I think it also demonstrates the point that it's not one of those things. It's the multifaceted piece of that. That it's like it doesn't it's a failure at each stage because
Right.
so I'm sure being a member of the autism community, you have heard of the name Temple Grandin. And I got
Yeah.
to see her speak, and it was awesome. And she had mentioned about having a pilot checklist. And I'm like, that's not just a pilot industry thing. Doctors have these because there's routine procedures that you have to do, like even when administering anesthesia. So it's not like what you're asking for is totally unheard of either. Is they have the resources, these things already exist. It's making them part of the daily norm that
Right.
would make it more accessible for everyone. And I
Right.
appreciate that you're bringing attention to things because the other thing, and I know that this was probably not, this was not necessarily your experience, but how would one know if someone was doing something inappropriate or
Right.
if someone took advantage of another person if you don't know what to expect? So by articulating exactly what's going to happen in whatever means is the preferred communication style, because that's an important point too,
Right.
is really critical. And for everyone's safety and sanity and capacity to keep themselves regulated in that type of environment.
Yeah, you would think that like doctors' offices would be a little more empathetic because they know what people go through,
Mm.
and they're not, because knowing in advance would have helped me. So would have I wouldn't have been as like mentally exhausted and close to burnout just from one appointment, because I would have been able to tell myself, okay, well, this is what they're gonna do. This person's gonna touch you. You got to put this robe on. There's gonna be bright lights. If I would have known all that, then I would have been fine. Would have been a little bit of discomfort because of my sensory issues. Very sensitive to touch, but I would have known to expect. So at least if not my body was put at ease, my mind would have been put at ease.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah, that's such an unfair situation on all fronts. And
But by
it's just
vocalizing it, you can make like you're making a difference, because then there's people like me who will know, hey, I should outline this, or we can do something different about this.
right. Like your advocacy, Ayanna, is, I'm thinking about my sister because she's here in the virtual room with us, but I'm thinking about how it can be applied, and I do think that oftentimes people don't think about that. Like just even for neurotypical, like a neurotypical person like myself, going into a pediatric appointment with my young children, it's interesting too that I think age has something to do with it, because I'm thinking about it, and we love our pediatrician. She always tells my kids what's coming up next. She never touches them without permission. She tells them what her job is. She tells them the purpose of the appointment. But I wonder if it's only because they're young. And why are people not doing
Mm,
that for adults?
wow.
Well,
Yeah.
one thing that I have noticed is that sometimes people forget that autistic children grow up to be autistic adults.
Hmm.
So they think that by the time that we're an adult, you should be fine. You should be used to being touched. We shouldn't have to walk you through everything, but that's not the case with everybody. Like some days I do well by myself, and some days I can hardly function by myself. So people just keeping that in mind, that they think that autism ends when you're 18, they need to get that out of their mind, because an autistic child is growing up to be an autistic adult. So I think that's probably part of it as well. I've never liked doctors at all, just because the fear and the equipment, the clinking of the equipment. Then when you go to the hospital, everything's beeping, and the good doctor did a really good job of showcasing visually what sensory overload can look like. when
Mm.
Sean had a meltdown and also when Sean was in the airport. That was probably the best visual that I saw TV and film do for autistic people to try to explain to the world how we view things and how we feel things. We feel very deeply.
Right. I haven't seen that episode. I used to watch The Good Doctor, but now I'm going to have to go back and try to look one up because that one up because we've talked a lot with different um, autism advocates and autistic people about media representation, and I definitely think hearing from someone who's autistic, it's just so interesting because hearing from you that example is the closest that someone could get. That's really meaningful for neurotypical people who can only imagine it. And Marissa talked specifically about how you are someone who is speaking. So in a traditional sense, we can hear your tone, we can hear um, what it means to you. Like we can almost feel it because of the way that you're describing it. And we were
For sure.
talking about Marissa's oldest son who's non-speaking. And I just feel like this conversation is blowing my mind about how we can make things better for him, but also how doctors in general, dentists, I can't even imagine. Like, how is the
Oh,
dentist experience for you?
I can't even explain it. It's like, well, first of all, there's bright lights, and some dentists. I
Right in
don't
your
know. I
face.
haven't met a dentist yet that wasn't just naturally cold. So they got the thing in your mouth and they're clinking in your teeth. It's probably what I hate most. It is the dentist. And I was actually just doing research for an autism friendly dentist a couple weeks ago because I refuse to go back to the dentist until I find one. And just speaking to other autistic people that I've met online, the dentist is probably one of the most uncomfortable things for us. And then they got their hands in your mouth, and then the smell from the gloves is really strong. It's so many things.
Oh my gosh. Like I heard you have a visceral reaction when I brought it up. But the reason that I had asked about the dentist is because you kind of got me thinking about the emergency room too, and how that must be such a sensory overload experience, and how
It
often
definitely is.
people would
There's
try to not like, do you try to avoid the doctor even when you're sick? Like, how do
I
you
do. I
you
do
do?
try to avoid
Okay.
it. If I can manage whatever I'm dealing with at home, I manage it at home. Um, I think the last time I went to the ER, it was just for a migraine, but it wouldn't go away, and my dad forced me to go. So we went to the emergency room, and it's the reason the emergency room is so overwhelming for me is because like the waiting room is there, the waiting room is full. There's so much going on with people in the waiting room, and then even when they bring you back, there's still a lot going on. So you don't know what to expect, and nobody can tell you what to expect because they don't know what to expect. So the
Right.
emergency room is very, very overwhelming. I can't even imagine like how an autistic child would feel because I know as an autistic adult, it's not my favorite thing to do, and I avoid it at all costs.
That's exactly I mean, they my son can't tell me, but like you could he vocalizes his discomfort. And I will say this, the local hospital where we have taken my son, they have specific advocates. So when he had to have tubes put in, when he had to have his tonsils out, there were toys to help him in the waiting period. There were means to which like they would make adjustments, so like he was allowed to bring his iPad back with him to the surgery room to make him more comfortable. But again, to Elena's point, people forget that just because they're you're under 18 doesn't mean that this goes away at 18. Like
Right.
having those comfort items with you
If
should.
anything, it sometimes gets worse depending on what the situation is.
Yeah.
So, you don't know what to expect every day when you wake up. So it's not always
Right.
easy to tell somebody else.
Right. So
You're absolutely correct.
you created this powerful platform at Phenomenally Autistic, and you created Black Girl Diagnosed. What are the main messages you hope people take away from your advocacy?
Well, for phenomenally autistic, that kind of happened by accident. I just wanted to start sharing my autism journey. So I started just posting the things that I experienced online. I started sharing my diagnosis story. And then somebody was like, can you come on my podcast and speak about your diagnosis story? And then they wrote autism advocate on like the promotional flyer. So that's kind of how like I didn't just like wake up and be like, I'm an autism advocate. So somebody like gave me the name and called me that. But what I want for my platform to do is bring more not just awareness but acceptance for autistic people. And no matter what anybody says, everybody knows somebody autistic, and they might not know that the person is autistic because the person themselves might not know they're autistic and might not be diagnosed. But I just want people to take away that, the different things you go through being a Black autistic woman. It's even easier for Black men that are autistic. Black women go through so much more, and I speak about this all the time because part of my diagnosis story is a lot of people were always like, "Oh, she's so mean, she's so angry," but it was never any of that. I was autistic, but in the Black community, autism isn't as well known. We've come a really long way, but nobody would just look at me and be like, "Oh, well, she's autistic." They'd rather look at me and be like, "She's angry, she's mean," and then the diagnosis I got, she's bipolar.
Mhm.
And
So you have like the racist pieces, you have the
Yeah, the systemic racism and the
right.
medical gaslighting. You can speak to a doctor, they're medically biased, they medically gaslight you. So there's so many hurdles that you have to get through just for like basic care and your basic needs. There's just so much that you have to go through. And I try to share as much as I can on my platform about what I go through, which might help somebody else. I'm not a doctor, I'm not an expert, but I can tell you what I went through. And if we can just help one person, then I feel like I would have succeeded. And as far as Black Girl Diagnosed, I started that to amplify the voices of disabled women, neurodivergent, autistic, anybody who has some type of challenge, amplify their voices, let them tell their stories because you never know who might hear their story and who it might help.
That's beautiful.
I
It's
know this
amazing.
isn't specifically one of the questions, but I'm curious to know. So, you had identified that there have been a few medical professionals in your life that were helpful. Can I just ask, what did they do that was helpful to you?
Mm,
Well, I have a dissociative disorder. Um, and my primary care doctor that I told you about, who's I probably had the most pleasant experience, she was the first person to pick up on it.
Okay.
I was at the doctor and I dissociated a little bit, and she was like, "Well, I can't really let you leave here like that." But I don't drive. I can't drive because of the seizure disorder. So of course, I was able to go with my dad. But she was the first person that picked up on me having dissociative disorder, and I had a really great endocrinologist. He actually listened to me because I've been through it with doctors. I went to
Sounds like
doctors
it.
who they were just like, "Oh, you need more sleep." "Oh, well, don't stay up so late at night watching Netflix." Like I had a doctor say that to me. So it's just you just go through so much, and I've hopped from doctor to doctor trying to find the right combinations of doctors and specialists, and I think we found it right. Like I think we're good right now, and it took so long, but I'm in a good place, like, with my doctors right now. There aren't any doctors that I'm uncomfortable with. I did have a neurologist who he just felt a little bit too touchy-feely for me, so we left that environment, and then when I told him, I was like, "I really don't like being touched," he got offended. He was like, "Oh, well, excuse me." So, like, how are you getting offended? And this is my body, and it's my consent, and you don't need to keep touching me. I'm here about seizures, and I already did all the tests, wore the machine home, got the camera, brain scan. So what are you touching me for? So that was probably the last bad experience that I had. But now I have a great neurologist. So
I'm glad to hear that.
yeah. So what I'm taking away from all of that, and just correct me if I'm wrong, is keep looking for a doctor that fits your
yes,
needs and
they have
listens
to
to
feel
you.
right.
Yeah,
They have to
feel
feel right.
the feeling too. You're
Yeah.
talking about your bodily autonomy, and and you have different layers to your experience that I think people are going to hear this and they're going to say, "I'm just going to keep looking." Like one of the things that my OBGYN had talked about, because I had shared when my youngest was born, there was a family next door who had a baby, and the woman was Black and was experiencing racism perpetrated by a nurse. And I had it. I thought I misheard. I thought whatever. And I don't usually stick my nose in people's business, but you are the most vulnerable, I think, when you are in a position where you cannot. You've just had a baby. like hours away from just having had a baby. And I got up having had a C-section. I was supposed to be in bed, and I walked to the next door, and I had had it. And what I realized was, when you add on layers of just how much she happened to have ADHD too. I didn't know that she was neurodivergent, but uh, when you make someone feel safe, you can learn more about them. And while you may not feel safe, Ayanna, with your doctors, I think you're helping people to say you should feel safe. And that's what my OBGYN had shared with me, is that people don't understand you choose your doctor. They don't choose you, you choose your doctor. So just because your insurance says somebody covers this one person on a list, seek out other people. And my OBGYN, who is white, actually had said Black women in particular do not go and seek another OBGYN, because after they put emotional labor into creating a relationship, especially when it comes about fertility, it's too complicated to try to skip to another person. And I think you're empowering people, no matter their race, but especially Black women, to go out and find the right person, whether you are neurodivergent, whether you are Black, whether you are neurotypical, whatever it means. And I think that is so powerful. So one question that I really wanted to ask is, how can we make mammograms more accessible for people? What do you think needs to be done? What's the work that needs to be done? And what strategies can you encourage people that do work for you?
I'm gonna speak from what would have helped me. Um, Maybe if they would have sent like a pre-appointment packet out with everything that was gonna happen, and so I would know what to expect. Like, I go off routine. When my routine is thrown off, I need to know exactly what you're gonna do. So that
Mhm.
would have helped me. Um, like a quieter waiting area. Maybe they can sit you somewhere else while you're waiting to go and have your mammogram. If possible, dim the lights. You know, light sensitivity is very real and it can trigger other things in your body as well. Having your support person with you, and having a doctor who doesn't just treat you like patient B, patient A, who actually takes the time out to be gentle with you and care for you. Because why did you become a doctor if you're going to be cold to your patients? So those are the things that could have helped me. And I just feel like any autistic woman that's going in to have a mammogram, just do your research. That's something that I didn't do. I was just
Mm.
scared and I didn't know what to expect. But if you do your research and you know exactly what they're going to do to you, it will be easier. And you can ask for certain accommodations. Like, for the OBGYN, I gotta get put under anesthesia. So it's just, and a lot of people don't know that they're allowed to ask for that.
No,
I didn't,
no, I didn't
but
know
I
that either.
also I also recognize that I don't have the same struggles, but it's good to know. I would really need that for the dentist. I really can't stand the dentist
I
either.
can't stand the dentist either.
But, that said, the other thing that you had said is not only keep advocating, find the right person, find the right fit. I think that you might resonate with this, but I know that it takes special individuals when you find someone that you can connect with. You want to hold those people so close
Yes.
because they're so few and far between. And so I know I'm so grateful for my little village. And when we do find those key resources, it's like, I will book you a year in advance to make sure that this relationship
That
stays put.
that's how I am with my primary doctor. She's my primary care doctor, but I will go see her for something before I go to my specialist, because
Yeah.
she's a genius. She knows what she's doing. She manages all my medications. So I would rather go to her because that's who I'm comfortable with. A lot of things that were being missed by other doctors, she caught for the first time. She's like, "Well, this isn't right. This," she's like, "You have no immune system and you have this going on and you have this. How come nobody caught this before?" So she's been my doctor for a while now, and I'm just blessed to have found her and that she's there and she's always available. If I need an appointment, she'll make time, even if it's a telehealth call. So I'm very blessed to have the primary care doctor that I have.
That's great. I want you to share her with everyone, but or I assume a female, right? You said
Yeah, it's a
yeah,
woman.
so yeah, I want you to share her, but at the same time, I don't want you to share her because I
Right.
know then she'll be this
But also, yes.
inaccessible commodity. She'll know the shout out.
She'll
right?
know, yeah. Do you know for sure if she watches your
She saw
podcast
my
or anything?
TV, my news interview that I just did. She saw that, and her secretary called my dad and was like, she came out in the lobby and was like, "Oh my God, that's Ayanna." So she's getting an
Oh,
idea of what I do.
that's
That's awesome.
amazing. That's so cool. I was going to ask, what can you tell neurotypical people in the healthcare field that can make a difference? Like, how can they make a difference?
Well, first they need to understand that we don't have the same, processing system as them, and we have our own special needs. And you have to do what feels safe for us. Even if you have to take an extra step, it doesn't matter. That's your job. So even if you have to take an extra step for the comfort of somebody with a different mind, with a different way of seeing things, with a different way of processing things, I say that they need to take those steps and not feel like it's a burden, and not make the patients feel like they're a burden, because it's really your right to feel comfortable and to know exactly what's happening to your body. So I feel like they need to give more disabled patients more grace.
That's so
That's wise.
helpful. I can't wait to tell. I have several friends who are nurses. And a couple of my husband's friends are in the medical field as well. And I can't wait to talk to them about this and talk to them about you and tell them to follow you.
Yeah, because
So,
what you're asking for is human decency.
Yeah.
right.
It's
Right.
not
And every human
transformational,
should
but it
have it.
feels that way. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Right. I completely agree. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for
And
having me.
oh my gosh, I feel like hopefully you'll come on again, because I feel like we could talk to you
Anytime.
for forever. So
Yes,
thank
it
you
would be
so
very
much.
good
This
to have
really means so much to us on so many levels. Like, we shared with you offline about the breast cancer journey that family and friends have been on. And we so appreciate you sharing about your sister. And um, we hope that everyone out there hears how important it is to have a mammogram, feels
Yes.
more prepared to have a mammogram. And we're wishing everybody a great rest of your October. And please be sure to go and find Ayanna. We will be posting this video with all of her information for you to follow her, because she has so much that we can continue to learn from her. And we thank you again so much, Ayanna. Have a
Thank you
great
for
day,
having me.
everybody. Take care.
Thank you. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Everything is Learning. If you loved this episode, share it, subscribe to hear more awesome content, and let's keep the conversation going. Stay curious and keep learning. We'll catch you next time.